Well, not a bad way to spend a Friday morning in August. County Executive Laura Curran, thank you all so much for coming. I just want to introduce some of our special guests that we have. Basil Sagos, DEC Commissioner. You get 2 rounds of applause today. We have Brian Stratton, who is Director of the New York State Canal Corporation. We've got 2 of our state senators here, Senator Todd Kaminsky and Senator John Brooks. And from the Assembly, we have Chuck Levine and his colleague in the Assembly, Tony Durso. We have Nassau County Controller Jack Schneerman. And we have 2 of our supervisors. We are here in the town of Hempstead, and we have our supervisor, Laura Gillen. And the other nautical supervisor of Oyster Bay, Joe Saladino. We're joined by county legislators Denise Ford and Deborah Muley. And I just have to say they're both working very hard with GOSER, with the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery on Sandy. We had a wonderful meeting last night with a bunch of Sandy victims, getting them the help that they need, and GOSER was as a fantastic partner in that. We have from the Citizens Campaign for the Environment, Executive Director Adrian Esposito. And this guy's life is, our life is in his hands. The captain of this ship, of this boat, Tony Delernia. And I see we have many village mayors here. Please raise your hand so we can applaud you, mayors. And many other community leaders as well. So thank you so very much for being here. So this morning we're going to hear from the governor, and you've heard about this before, taking the Tappan Bridge and other stuff that's trash, putting it into the water to create an artificial reef, which is wonderful for our marine life. It's wonderful for our recreation, bringing some very important tax dollars into our economy, and it's also great for the environment. It's a win-win. Since day one, Governor Cuomo has had our back here in Nassau County. Right from Superstorm Sandy, he has been incredibly helpful, and he understands the challenges that we face, not only on the South Shore, not only in Nassau County, although I am biased to that, but for the entire island. He also understands the importance of our beautiful marine life. I understand you're a fisherman. So he understands firsthand the importance of preserving our beautiful waterfront and our beautiful marine life. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Boy, they work hard here in Nassau and Hempstead, huh? Another tough day at the office. This is a day at the office. It is a beautiful day. First to Laura Curran, who is doing such a great job. She's just such a great partner for me personally and for all of us on the state side. Let's give her a big round of applause. And Laura Gillen, who's a breath of fresh air for Hempstead, and we're looking forward to all the great work we're going to do. You have our state partners who made today possible, Todd Kaminsky, Chuck Levine, Tony Durso. Let's give them another round of applause. John Brooks, who's doing a great job, especially. Joe Saladino, who abandoned Albany to come back home. I don't blame him on most days. Joe Saladino, pleasure to be with you. And Basil Sagos and Brian Stratton, who are on the state team. Tony Delernia, who sits on boards for us. I want to thank you all. Give them a round of applause. Let me make a couple of quick points if I can, and then let's move this boat and let's get out there. But it's an important topic that we're here to talk about today. It's about the environment. On the state side, we've taken a little bit of a different attitude. We tend to talk about environmental protection, right? We have environmental protection agencies. We want to say the emphasis is now shifted. Protection suggests we're going to protect before the damage is done. We need a different orientation as a society that says we have done damage. Let's admit it. And we're now talking about restoration of the environment more than we're talking about protecting the environment. Maybe protection in the 40s and the 50s before we did the damage. We've done damage, and we have to change our mindset to our mission is more to now restore from the damage that we have done and bring this earth and this planet and this environment back to where it was before we did our damage. And that's the orientation we have in the state, right? The acknowledgement that we have done a lot of harm. Some of it was inadvertent. Some of it was just negligent. Some of it was just we believed the environment and the earth had this magical ability to sustain itself no matter what we did to degrade it. But now we know painfully that that's not true. And we see the evidence of what we've done and our bad acts and our malfeasance everywhere we turn. So let's admit our mistakes. You'll never solve a problem you're unwilling to admit. We did damage. How do we fix it? How do we restore? And New York is the state to do it because New York was always a leader when it came to the environment. You look at all the major environmental progress that was done. It was all done here in the state of New York. We really did lead the way. Thank you very much. That makes it more helpful. First state park in the United States of America, New York State at Adirondack in Niagara Falls. The Adirondack Park was a phenomenal environmental first. We had literally logged the entire Adirondacks. And then we formed the Adirondack Park Agency actually to restore it and to renew it. Teddy Roosevelt, Palisades Interstate Park to preserve the cliffs. The environmental movement started in New York. The activism started in New York. There was a proposal to, on the Hudson River at the Storm King Mountain, to pump water to the top of the mountain, form a lake, and release it to power an energy plant when they needed the power. People were outraged that you would degrade the Hudson, you would degrade Storm King Mountain. They got active, they started lawsuits, they stopped the energy plant, but they also formed the environmental movement. That was the first time you had that kind of environmental activism. We did the first Earth Day here before the federal government ever acted. And currently, this state is leading the way in the country in environmental activism. We have a federal government that is doing the exact opposite. And New York is leading the way, not just for New York, but literally for the country. And that's one of our roles. Federal government pulls out of the Paris Climate Accords. We said we're going to follow the Climate Alliance, and we brought together states that would join us in honoring the Paris Accords, even though the nation pulled out. We have the largest environmental protection fund in the history of the state, $300 million. We have the largest clean water fund, $2.5 billion, new pipes, remediation activities all across the state. We're starting here on Long Island, 200 million shellfish restoration project, right? That's how Mother Nature used to clean the water, was with oysters and clams and shellfish. We destroyed it. We're putting it back. $65 million for upstate lakes, but it's also downstate. We now have algal blooms that we never had before that are frightening. The upstate lakes are not just beautiful for tourism, etc. They're also the source of drinking water. And these algal blooms are not just unsightly, they are dangerous. They have toxins in them that can be bad for animals and bad for people. They're getting worse every year. They're a little different in different parts of the state. And we're now coming up with strategies all across the state to deal with those blooms wherever they are. Nassau County, we did something that'll pay dividends for generations to come. You had the Bay Park wastewater treatment that was literally emptying into the southern channels. And it was literally, yeah, we don't even want to see where it is right here, by the way. Don't look. But the outflow was literally going into the channels. And just think of the insanity of having a wastewater treatment plant dump into the channels. And we know what happens with the wastewater treatment plant once it's too much rain and it becomes overburdened and non-functional. We're going to run a new wastewater pipe, discharges 3 miles out into the ocean. The Grumman plume is something we've talked about for years and years and years. It is literally the stain of the manufacturing era. It was Grumman, discharged chemicals. Long Island has an aquifer that is right below the surface. Everything goes through the sand. It's been migrating to the ocean. Joe Saladino used to talk about this every chance he got. He was exactly right. Clean it up. Clean it up. Well, we're doing it. Largest land acquisition in the Adirondack Park, 69,000 acres. Largest in over 100 years. Don't let the suspense get to you. Also, start aggressively to make the shift to renewables. We have the largest solar panel manufacturer in the hemisphere, in Buffalo, New York, by Tesla and Panasonic, making solar panels. It's great for the economy. It's also great to lead the way going forward. We stopped pipelines that are crisscrossing this state, that are just posing potential damage. We are the state that stepped up and banned fracking because we knew it was going to be problematic, and it turned out to be problematic. And the future for the environment and the future for the economy is the state that moves to the renewable technology first. That is going to be the winner, not just environmentally, but also economically. We have invested more than any state in the United States in that conversion. We want the jobs for renewable here. We want the technology here on Long Island. $1.4 billion for renewables, more wind power, more turbines, more solar are in the pipeline in this state than any other state, and we're excited about it. And the federal government has now proposed that they would open up New York waters to offshore drilling. As insane as that sounds, offshore drilling, because they're still in the world of fossil fuels, offshore drilling has such potential dangers for the state. If we ever had offshore drilling off the coast of Long Island, and there was a spill, it would damage not just the southern shore of Long Island. That spill, with our tides, would go into the Long Island Sound, would go up the Hudson River as far as Poughkeepsie, given the tides. The entire metropolitan area would be stained by a spill on offshore drilling. It is an act of insanity to say that you would undertake such a dangerous activity off the shore of New York. We have to stop it, and we will. and the groups have been very helpful in organizing activities to stop it. We have a state bill that Todd Kaminsky and John and Chuck and Tony are going to make sure gets passed that makes it virtually impossible to do offshore drilling off New York. We can't control the federal waters, but we can make sure no pipe touches these shores and no vehicle carrying that oil touches these shores. And that's what we want to do legislatively with what we call our Save Our Waters bill. We need your help. We need you active. We have a website, and we want you to get involved. And we also have to be creative in what we're doing. And that's what we're talking about today, is a creative way to help restore the natural treasures, which is by providing artificial reefs. We're going to do 12 artificial reefs across Long Island. We haven't done anything like this in decades. The reefs will take material, surplus material from the Tappan Zee Bridge. What do you do with an old bridge? You give it a second life. Half its life is above the water. The afterlife for a bridge, for those of you who are wondering, is there an afterlife? Well, if you're a bridge, there is certainly an afterlife, and there is proof. It goes underneath the water, and it forms a marine habitat. And that's what we're doing with the Tappan Zee Bridge. We also have surplus ships, surplus pipes, other material for reefs. We're going to get 6 done this year, and Hempstead is one of those reefs, and you're going to be part of it today, and you'll literally see the beginning of the formation. Over time, more material will be provided, but we're going to start with the Hempstead Reef today, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to show you a short video now on the Hempstead Reef. The last point is actually doing it. And whenever I talk to young students who say, I want to get involved in government, etc., what's the key point? The key point is that government is not supposed to be an organization that just talks or promotes or suggests. The art form is in getting it done and making it happen. And that's what we excel in New York. When a politician used to talk, and I was a boy, and we'd watch on TV, and my grandfather was there, my grandfather would go like this. And I said, what is that, Grandpa? He said, the politicians, all they do is talk. They don't do anything. He would never say it in front of my father, but that's what he would say. And that was too true and is too true. New York, Laura Curran, Laura Gillen, my colleagues, we're about getting it done. And today, once again, we are getting it done. So let's have a fun trip. Thank you.
Underwater environment off the coast of Long Island is critical to providing marine habitat for millions of fish, supporting a thriving commercial fishery, as well as amazing recreational diving and fishing opportunities. With more than 500,000 anglers in the Long Island region, the marine economy is a key component of the island's economic vitality, accounting for nearly 15% of gross domestic product. New York has always led the way in protecting our natural resources. This spring, New York State embarked on a major initiative that protects and promotes marine life and grows this economic engine for Long Island. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced that New York State is embarking on the largest development of artificial reefs in state history.
Artificial reefs are about environmental sustainability, it's economic development, it's environmental protection at the same time. It is also an alternative to recycling if you use the right materials. So it's a win-win-win.
This ambitious program is providing vital habitat for fish like cod, blackfish, black sea bass, summer flounder, and lobster. New York's Reef project is being managed by a multi-agency team comprising the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York Power Authority, and the New York Canal Corporation, New York State Department of Transportation, and the New York State Thruway Authority. We are building at 12 reef sites off the coast of Long Island. This summer, we are developing 6 of the reefs at Rockaway, Hempstead, Fire Island, Moriches, Shinnecock, and Smithtown. Next year, we'll be developing another 6 reefs at Atlantic Beach, McAllister Grounds, Yellow Bar, Kismet, 12 Mile, and Matinacock. We're building artificial reefs using a combination of recycled materials that enhance existing habitats, promote biodiversity, and ensure these marine environments continue to thrive. At each reef site, materials are strategically placed, utilizing the patch reef design, which creates smaller, isolated reef patches that are supported by sandy bottom. Before the structures are deployed, all harmful materials are removed, including oils, asbestos, pesticides, and loose debris. One of the key factors of these reef projects is that they will generate benefits immediately, providing shelter and foraging areas for fish and other marine life.
Reefs that have been put down have been colonized in as little as 2 weeks. Recreational fishermen have been able, and some studies have shown recreational fishermen have been able to take fish off of artificial reefs 2 weeks after their initial deployment.
These benefits will continue to grow over a 10 to 15-year period as the artificial structures become covered by encrusting organisms like barnacles, mussels, and sponges, creating habitats similar to a natural reef. On May 31st, Governor Cuomo led the inaugural event at Shinnecock Reef, where 1,093 tons of materials were deployed, including 885 tons of clean, recycled Tappan Bridge steel trusses, roadway deck panels, and steel piles. 3 out-of-commission Canal vessels, including a 74-foot tugboat and 208 tons of steel construction materials. As this diving footage of the sunken tugboat shows, marine life, such as black sea bass, are already attracted to this new reef habitat. More recently, we deployed materials to create a new habitat at Smithtown Reef in the Long Island Sound. 2 40-foot decommissioned canal vessels and 75 tons of recycled steel pipes were sunk at the 3-acre site that lies 1.6 nautical miles northwest of Stony Brook Harbor entrance. We've begun developing Rockaway Reef, which received its first barge full of recycled Tappan Bridge materials this July. More materials will be deployed there in August and September, including a 100-foot vessel. Today, as part of our ongoing initiative to provide shelter for fish and other marine life off New York shores, we'll be developing Hempstead Reef with a variety of recycled materials. 115-foot decommissioned derrick boat called Ward's Island, another 75-foot derrick boat, 2 large steel power plant turbines, 4 steel bridge trusses, and 2,380 tons of old Tappan Bridge materials. This vast 744-acre reef is situated 3.3 nautical miles south of Jones Beach State Park, and it is 72 feet deep at its deepest point. In June, a barge load of Tappan Bridge materials was deployed at the reef, and 3 more barges of Tappan materials will be deployed between now and September. Development of the Fire Island Reef and Moriches Reef will also take place at the end of the summer. New York is a national leader in taking on critical environmental challenges through funding for the Environmental Protection Fund and Clean Water Infrastructure Act, banning offshore drilling along New York's coastline, and reducing nitrogen discharges into Long Island's Western Bay, as well as leading efforts to combat climate change and strengthen shoreline resiliency. We are committed to building a brighter, more sustainable future for all. Our innovative reef building program is an investment in a stronger, more diverse marine ecosystem that will boost Long Island's recreational, sport fishing, and diving industries, as well as the regional economy.
New York's always led the way. We will lead the way once again. And the proverb that says it all to me always, we did not inherit the earth from our parents. We are borrowing it from our children.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome County Hempstead Supervisor Boyd Jones.
What a great video. Wasn't that great? This man can do it all. He builds bridges, he makes reefs, and he makes a great video too. So we're heading off now to witness firsthand the Governor's Reef Deployment Initiative. And it's a really, really exciting day in Hempstead, an exciting day in Nassau County, and an exciting day for all of Long Island, because our waterways and our oceans are vital to our economy, and they have made up our community for since we first had Native Americans arrive here, and they called this Sewanaka, the land of shells. So this reef project is a major step forward to protect our economy, ecosystem, and ensure that Long Islanders can sustainably fish for generations to come. So on behalf of the town of Hempstead and on behalf of Long Island, I thank you, Governor, for your leadership in this project, and I applaud you for your continued relentless commitment to protecting our environment. Thank you, Governor. So now we are going to have everybody slowly step downstairs and carefully so we can go watch the Reef deployment, and we're going to be hearing from Commissioner Sagos as we travel to the Reef site, who will be describing what you're seeing in front of you. So I ask everybody again, we're going to slowly move downstairs so we can watch the Reef building. Thank you all.